This day is a day, a bad luck's always coming my way.
Jessica and I travel quite a bit. We live here in Hollywood, but sometimes we miss some things that we'd like to be a part of, and that is the topic of today's video. Recently, we became aware of a YouTube channel called Hollywood Graveyard. A guy by the name of Arthur Dark runs this channel, and he goes and he visits cemeteries throughout the country, mostly here in Hollywood, hence the name Hollywood Graveyard. Amazing videos. Haven't met him, we're not friends. But it came to our attention recently that he held a fundraiser to find a permanent resting place for actress Helen Chandler. Now I realize that name might not mean much to you, but you've definitely seen her photo, definitely seen her in movies. More specifically, the 1931 movie Dracula with Bela Lugosi. When it comes to the life of Helen Chandler, sadly, I really don't know much, aside from her role as Mina Seward in the 1931 Dracula. So I had to do some digging, and this is what I found. Early 30s, around the time she made Dracula, Helen was suffering from alcoholism. Seems like that was a common thing back then. She suffered with it for many years. She did some acting, nothing as big as Dracula. In the 50s, she suffered pretty severe burns across her body because she fell asleep in her apartment while smoking a cigarette. That didn't help. Her alcoholism really became a major problem, and in April 30th, 1965, following surgery, Helen Chandler died. She was cremated, and her ashes were kept in a place called the Chapel of the Pines. We showcased this place in a Frankenstein video, in a previous video. We're gonna go back there in a little bit. But her ashes were there for quite some time, since 1965. Fast forward 2023, Arthur Dark from Hollywood Graveyard raises enough money to finally give Helen Chandler a final resting place. And it's here at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, at the Cathedral Mausoleum. Now, walking the Cathedral Mausoleum, if we were to make a left here at the hallway, it would take us to the final resting place of Peter Lorre. Recently, we featured that in a video, but we're actually going to make a right. You can see the flowers there because it was relatively recently they had the ceremony here. I'll put a link to Hollywood Graveyard's video that he did of the ceremony. But right there is the final resting place of Helen Chandler. Well, we have a little bit of glare on the glass here, and you can see my reflection. But how beautiful is this? Not only did they raise enough money for the niche for Helen Chandler, but they also got her this really beautiful urn. It's a framed picture of Helen Chandler on the left. On the right, we have a picture of Helen and Bela Lugosi, and a nameplate that says Helen Chandler, 1908 to 1965, actress of stage and screen. The flowers from the ceremony are even still here. Chapel of the Pines, in loving memory, Helen Chandler. And here's one more look at where you'll find Helen Chandler if you come here to Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Bela Lugosi himself is over in Culver City, but here is Mina. I always forget whenever you come to a place like this on Sunday, usually they're closed. So there's nobody here at the Chapel of the Pines, but this is where Helen Chandler was, where her ashes were kept for so many years. So right now, I am walking through the Chapel of the Pines, the chapel itself. I've never seen the vault with my own two eyes, but I know it's somewhere around here. This is the main room, and those doors right there is where they would bring the casket in and they would place it. There's a little pedestal in front of the doors. I didn't think we'd be able to get down inside the vault where Helen Chandler was kept for quite some time, and so many others, but at least we can walk around. In keeping with the theme of Dracula, right next door to the Chapel of the Pines, you'll find the Angelus Rosedale Cemetery. It's been featured in all kinds of different movies and TV shows and music videos. Guns N' Roses, at some point we're going to come back and do that. But this is where you'll find the final resting place of the man who directed Dracula, Todd Browning. I feel like at this point, we've done quite a few different videos on Dracula and Bela Lugosi already. We even came to this cemetery in the past and did a video dedicated to Todd Browning, the director of Dracula. So this is kind of a return for us. All of those videos will be in the description of this video, so you can go and watch them. Now, if we were to keep going down this road, just past those trees to the left of the road is where you'll find the Chapel of the Pines, where Helen Chandler's ashes were. And right here in Angelus Rosedale Cemetery, let me back up a little bit so you can take it all in, is where you'll find the mausoleum and columbarium. This is where you'll find the final resting place of Todd Browning.
Killer contortionists, blood-sucking creatures of the night, devil dolls, freaks of nature, diabolical schemers, pathological villains, and heroes. His ghoulish characters and twisted tales conjure up an image of the man as either the screen equivalent of Edgar Allan Poe or a pioneer in the craft of exploitation filmmaking. A man who truly let his hair down when it came to revealing his dark side to us on the screen, or a man whose artistic credo was that a sucker was born every minute, and who knew how to separate that sucker from his money with the lure of the unknown, the perverse, the forbidden. When it came to cinematic sensationalism and flirting with the taboo, this fear-maker of the silent and early sound years had no peer.
It's not a big place. Rather small mausoleum, if I were to be honest. But he's over here to the left. There's just something about these Hollywood mausoleums that are just gorgeous. Right down here. It was starting to get pretty hot outside, so walking in here, it's kind of nice and refreshing. It feels like it's air conditioned, but it's not. The windows are open. It's like an open air mausoleum, and it feels quite nice. And here's where you'll find Todd Browning. 1880 to 1962. He died actually October 6th, 1962. A bit of a recluse he was after his wife died back in 1944. I said he directed Dracula. He also directed London After Midnight and one of my personal favorites, Freaks. I'll never get over how crazy it is to be living in a town where all of this movie history took place. Where I can just go down the street and pay my respects to Todd Browning himself, or Helen Chandler now, Bela Lugosi over in Culver City. It blows my mind. It's so tempting to head over to Culver City and show you the grave of Bela Lugosi. Especially since this is a video about Dracula. Really the only reason why I'm showing you Todd Browning is because it's right next to the Chapel of the Pines. So if you want to watch the video we did on Bela Lugosi, which I personally think is a pretty good video. We covered a lot. We show his grave, we show his house where he died, his star. The video to that is in the description of this one. You see what I mean? It's all connected. Hollywood history, the Grimm Life Collective. And with that being said, thank you for joining us on another Grimm adventure. Much respect to the Hollywood Graveyard, Arthur Dark, and happy Halloween.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always